Have you ever seen a storm lose its raw power the exact moment the winds die down? That is exactly what happens when a narcissist finally realizes that you no longer care about them. There is no more room for reactions, no more space for fear, no more opportunity for control, just complete and utter silence. And that silence, that stillness, shakes them far more deeply than any scream or argument ever could. When a narcissist realizes that you have truly stopped caring, the first thing that hits them is the profound loss of control. For a person with these traits, control is not just something they prefer to have. It is the absolute foundation of how they navigate their entire world and every interaction they have with others from the very beginning. They spend time studying you. They learn exactly what makes you smile, what makes you cry, and what makes you react. They build a complex psychological playbook tailored specifically for you. They use praise, manufactured guilt, fear, charm, and even cold silence as tools to manipulate you and maintain emotional dominance. This is not love. It is possession wrapped in the thin, deceptive illusion of affection. And once you begin to step away mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, that power they once held over you begins to crumble. To the narcissist, control is equal to validation. If they can make you chase them, cry for them, argue with them, or even hate them with passion, they feel alive. Your reactions feed their fragile ego. Your confusion fuels their distorted sense of superiority. As long as they can successfully get a rise out of you, they believe they still matter. But when you stop reacting, when you stop trying to explain, defend, or justify yourself, when the silence from your end becomes consistent and unshaken, that illusion of control simply disappears. It does not disappear peacefully, however. It collapses violently in their mind. They start to sense the shift in the dynamic long before you think they do. They are highly tuned into power structures, especially when those dynamics start slipping away from their fingers. They might try to act like they do not notice. They might pretend they do not care. But behind the mask, they are panicking. This detachment confuses them. They wonder why you are not begging anymore. Why aren't you checking in? Why aren't you arguing? Or why aren't you crying? They replay your conversations in their head. They analyze your new stillness. For someone addicted to control, that stillness is the most terrifying thing in the world. At this point, the narcissist may try to regain their footing. They will say things to provoke you, maybe something cruel, something passive-aggressive, something that always used to get a reaction out of you. They want to see if there is still some hook left in you. But when you remain unfazed, they feel exposed and weak. And that is a state of being they work overtime to avoid. Their identity is built on being untouchable, in total control, admired or feared, but never ignored. Indifference from someone they once controlled is a clear signal that the game is over. This loss of control can also make them reflect, though not in the way most people would. They will not sit down and think about what they did wrong to push you away. Instead, they will wonder how they lost the ability to keep you hooked. They will blame you for becoming cold, disloyal, or ungrateful. They cannot process that the problem was never your devotion. It was their exploitation of it. So, they may shift quickly into defensive tactics, acting as if they were the one who walked away first, rewriting the story so they do not have to sit with the painful truth. They lost you because they never truly had you in the first place. They only had your emotional energy. And yet, despite the internal chaos, they will often pretend like absolutely nothing is wrong. Narcissists are actors. They might start flaunting new relationships, new achievements, or a sudden burst of synthetic joy, trying to trigger jealousy or doubt in you. But it is just theater, a performance to regain control, not necessarily over you directly, but over how they are perceived by others. They cannot control you anymore, so they try to control the narrative. What they fail to understand is that when someone truly stops caring, they have already mourned the relationship. They have already grieved the loss of false hope and the exhaustion of emotional abuse. What is left is pure clarity. And clarity is the death of manipulation. So the narcissist does not just lose a person. They lose the fragile illusion that they were ever truly in control. And for them, that is the most devastating loss of all. When a narcissist realizes you no longer care, one of their most common and telling reactions is either erupting into blind rage or retreating into cold silence. Both responses are defense mechanisms designed not only to reassert dominance, but also to punish you for daring to detach emotionally. This is not random behavior. It is deeply calculated, rooted in the narcissist's fragile ego and an obsessive need to be the center of your emotional world, whether that comes through love, fear, or chaos. Narcissistic rage is not like ordinary anger. It is explosive, disproportionate, and often entirely unpredictable. It comes from the deep, hidden wound of perceived rejection or abandonment. The moment you stop reacting, stop chasing, and stop being affected by their games, the narcissist experiences what psychologists call a narcissistic injury, a direct blow to their carefully constructed self-image. That injury does not just sting, it burns. And instead of sitting with that discomfort or reflecting on their own behavior, they project it outward. You become the primary target. You will hear harsh words, see irrational outbursts, and possibly experience character assassination. They might say things designed to cut deep, to invalidate your self-worth, to attack your identity, or to make you question the progress you have made. But the goal is not just to hurt you. The goal is to shock you back into emotional engagement. The narcissist does not care if you cry, scream, or fight back. As long as you feel something, as long as you give them your energy, because your emotional response confirms that they still matter, that they still have influence over you. They thrive off this kind of toxic connection where chaos is mistaken for passion and manipulation is mistaken for love. If rage fails to ignite you, if you remain calm in the face of their fury, the narcissist may suddenly switch tactics, shifting from fire to ice. Cold silence is another powerful weapon in the narcissist's arsenal. It is not peaceful. It is punishing. It is designed to make you feel invisible, unworthy, or abandoned. The narcissist wants you to feel the void they have created, hoping it will pull you back toward them. They might ignore your messages, pretend you do not exist, even when you are in a shared space, or completely disappear, only to return when they sense your emotional walls finally cracking. This kind of silence is not about needing space or healthy reflection. It is about control. It is a calculated power play, an emotional freeze-out meant to provoke insecurity in you. The narcissist believes that if they withhold attention and affection long enough, you will eventually come crawling back just to feel something again. This back and forth between rage and silence creates a complex psychological trap. For people who have been entangled with a narcissist, these extremes can be incredibly confusing. You may begin to question yourself. You might ask if you were too harsh or if you did something wrong. That is the entire design. The narcissist wants to keep you emotionally unstable, questioning your own reality, so they can slip back in and reclaim their control. But what they fail to realize is that real detachment is resilient. When you truly no longer care, their rage becomes nothing more than background noise, and their silence becomes a source of peace and space. You begin to see through the performance. You recognize that neither the outburst nor the absence is about you. It is about them scrambling to maintain relevance in a world where their manipulation no longer works. And that realization for the narcissist is absolutely infuriating. Whether through loud, destructive anger or chilling, calculated silence, the narcissist is reacting to one singular truth they cannot tolerate. They are losing their emotional grip on you. And for someone whose entire sense of worth is built on controlling how others see and feel about them, that is a terrifying reality. So they fight it in the only ways they know how, by being louder, meaner, colder, and more distant, hoping you will eventually break and they will win. When a narcissist finally realizes you no longer care, their first instinct is never acceptance or true reflection. It is desperation. That desperation drives them to manipulate in even more frantic ways. But this time, the manipulation takes a different form. It is not the early charm or the subtle mind games you may have once fallen for. Now it is frantic, disorganized, and fueled by pure fear. They know you are slipping away for good, and they will try every single tactic in their emotional playbook to pull you back in. This is when the cycle of love bombing returns. The guilt tripping begins, and the performance of victimhood takes center stage. They may start by acting like they have finally changed. Suddenly they are kind, thoughtful, and saying all the right things to win your favor. You will hear them say that they have been thinking about us, or that they did not realize how much they hurt you. These are not confessions rooted in genuine growth or self-awareness. They are calculated moves meant to reset the emotional connection and make you doubt your decision to walk away. They will recall memories that once meant something to you, trying to stir up nostalgia. They will offer apologies, not because they feel real remorse, but because they desperately need you to respond. Every gesture is baked, and they are hoping you will bite. If love bombing does not work, they shift to guilt. This is where they remind you of everything they supposedly did for you. They will twist history to suit their needs. They exaggerate their past sacrifices and downplay their mistreatment of you. After everything I did for you, this is how you repay me, becomes a common phrase. The goal is to make you second guess your own feelings. They want you to wonder if maybe you overreacted, if maybe you were too harsh, or if maybe, just maybe, they deserve another chance. It is emotional blackmail cloaked in a thin veil of sentimentality. They know that guilt is a powerful tool, especially when used against someone who once cared for them deeply. Then comes the act of extreme victimhood. This is when the narcissist paints themselves as the one who has been wronged. They will tell mutual friends, family members, or even post on social media that you abandoned them, that you were the cold one, and that they were trying to make things work while you simply walked away. It is not enough that they lost control over you. They want to control how others see you too. They need sympathy from others. They need an audience to applaud their performance. And in some cases, they need new supply. Someone else to admire them, to feed their ego, and to play the role you finally walked away from. When you stop caring, you stop the cycle. You step out of the theater, and you leave them standing there with no one to watch their act. That is when you truly reclaim your life. Even while they are busy looking for someone new, they often keep trying to pull you back in because your detachment feels like an open wound they simply cannot heal. Throughout all of this, there is a deep sense of urgency behind their every action. The manipulation feels much heavier and more intense because they can clearly sense your emotional door finally closing. Narcissists rely entirely on your emotional reactions. When you are angry, upset, or even just defending yourself, you are still giving them the attention they crave. But when you no longer react at all, they start to unravel. It is like trying to revive a dying flame in the middle of a massive storm. They panic, they scramble, and they get reckless. They might even cycle through all their tired tactics within a single day, like love bombing you in the morning, guilt tripping you by lunch, and then using passive-aggressive silence by the evening. These last-ditch manipulations are not about love. They are about survival. It is emotional survival for a person whose identity is tied exclusively to how others perceive and respond to them. They do not know who they are without an audience, without someone to manipulate, and without someone emotionally tied to their games. Your indifference exposes them completely. It shows them a mirror they cannot handle, one that reflects their lack of true connection, the emptiness hiding behind their charm, and the harsh reality that their games no longer work. So they try even harder, not because they care about you, but because they cannot stand the fact that you have stopped caring about them. When a narcissist realizes you do not care anymore, they experience a type of internal collapse that many people around them never actually see. On the outside, they may appear perfectly composed or even indifferent, but inside, their ego begins to unravel. What you are witnessing is not just simple disappointment or hurt. It is something far deeper and more fragile. The narcissist's entire identity is built around a carefully constructed image of superiority, power, and control. They survive on the validation and the emotional energy of others. So, when you no longer react, when you no longer seek their approval, and when you no longer respond to their drama, it is like pulling the plug on their primary power source. Without that supply, their fragile sense of self starts to crumble. This ego collapse does not look like a quiet, reflective moment of realization. It looks like total confusion, anger, and desperation. Narcissists rely on illusions. They believe they are smarter, more attractive, and more important than everyone around them. These beliefs are not grounded in reality. They are defenses built against deep-rooted insecurity. They need other people to reflect those illusions back to them. They need people to admire them, fear them, or envy them.